Yeah, the way it reads.
Yeah, we were going to go ahead and have a committee meeting and discuss what steps to follow, and we were discussing whether it should be at a board meeting, should it be something that the superintendent gives to the teachers or the OT or whoever.
Oh, this is the older parking lot. Okay.
Yeah. And babysitting the liability. Susan, do you have anything on that?
I don't have on that specifically, but Martina, do you want that back up on the parking lot for next time?
Yes,
So we bring it back.
Mhm.
It's happening really to use that as our tool.
Yes.
You have something in your packet I wanted to share with everybody, which
Are we finished with the parking lot? Because I think Comcom had.
Right, because I'm confused now. Are we looking at, I think now we move to the minutes, right? I
No.
don't know.
A5, if you look at A5, you've got the handout.
Okay.
And there's something that we
Right, okay,
had
so we're going,
prepared
yeah.
for each of you tonight, and it's in your packet, I believe, and it's the Family Participation Fund.
It's a.
We want to offer that as an option that people can actually get reimbursed $50 per meeting that would cover their mileage and their babysitting. So then their child could stay in their own home, be comfortable with the routine and, the environment. And the parent could submit the agenda of the meeting and actually get reimbursed. So we thought that was a first step option that people should look into. So that's just for your,
We have in the past.
pardon?
We have in the past, and how it works is they get paid 3 months, 6 months down the line, or they can get a letter saying that the funds have run out.
Okay, well,
Yeah. And I think Jim something is still in charge of it.
Well, it's been my experience in the past, that parents have gotten reimbursed, and it says you can do up to,
Something like 4 hours is $50, anything over 5 hours, I think is $100, and you can do a total of $100 for a month.
right. So we thought, while we look into further information, that this would be an option, that we could put it on our website, so parents could certainly have that, and other groups could put it on their website and let people know that this is certainly an option. Sounds like a really wonderful option. So anyway, that's what I have for you on that one.
Yeah. Before we go on, if we could go back to the parking lot, because again, let me say, Comcom had a question that I don't think that we talked about. So you want to?
Right, I think that standing versus ad hoc committee, I thought we were, it was supposed to be on the next agenda, and I don't think, say that, I'm
We
sorry.
haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh,
okay.
We haven't gotten to the parking lot?
I think
We're
we're
on-
going
we're
down.
on being
I
studied that
see
item.
that.
Oh.
Going down, yeah, going down.
I see that. Program transfers next. And that was me with the concern about the school districts able to take back county programs or county services, and they're not prepared to do it in any way.
So I'm going to talk about that in my report, and we have an agenda item
Okay.
tonight. So that's
And then the next thing was a possible translator.
we have reached out to start to gather some information on costs. I sent out an email to the WESELPA listserv, and I got responses from only 3 WESELPAs out of 125 who have very high Spanish-speaking populations, and they indicated that they are translating agendas and minutes and some materials. So it's something that I think we need to continue to gather information on, and then eventually we would have to take a proposal through the various committees and to the superintendents to see if they would support maybe a per diem position to do some translation as necessary.
I have a question. I know that Spanish speaking, my primary language is Spanish, and we have parents, but I help parents who speak Chinese Mandarin. And many times, I don't know if they don't come because, they also have the barrier language. I'm sure mommies, especially who stay with Chinese Mandarin, I just would like to know, we have variety of languages that need the same support. Not just Spanish. That is my thing. I know we have a high percentage, but again, we all help parents around. We have, especially I'm facing with a lot of Chinese and Mandarin and Vietnamese. So
but by law, ed code, translator is required, you can have a certain amount of percentage of
15%.
Spanish.
And do we make that percentage?
But however, a parent has to be informed, so quite frequently on the SELPA listserv, SELPA directors will say, does anybody have the procedural safeguards in one of those languages you're talking about? So if a need comes up, the district would be experiencing that need, but they can certainly let me know, and I could reach out and we could develop a bank of those.
And then, standing versus ad hoc, it was, for the next agenda, it was me. And, I'm so sorry, but, I didn't have a chance to, put my recording in a CD. And I remember you were here, Russell, and I had talked about not wanting to do an ad hoc, wanting to do a standing committee, because I wanted to be transparent and I wanted to be accountable. And that was my decision back then, and I know we were pressed for time, but I remember you stating, you know, it's the chairperson's decision, that's what's written in the bylaws, and that's what I remember from that meeting. And I know you went back and you watched the YouTube recording that Christy filmed, and
I think if you look, Martina, at C3, you had a motion that was made by
I think I did.
Kunku
I
to
think
table to this meeting. So all we can do now is our next business meeting is May, and we can do
It was tabled.
it was
It
tabled.
was tabled.
To
It
be
was
brought
tabled,
forward.
and I do have still questions on that, in requesting that. Now that we're active with meetings in the committee, certain committees, I do see, it's pretty scary. The timeline is what's scary.
Yeah.
So that needs to be highly considered.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was the whole point of that discussion, that ad hoc
Yeah.
meetings are somewhat
For
easier to pull together
For
with
certain committees.
logistics, given the logistics of employees.
And if possible, I'd still like to have a discussion of it, because if it's a single topic, you know, if it's anything that occurs from year to year, and that's the kind of discussion I'd like to have, you know, on it. So again, I would like to request it be on the agenda. It is your prerogative to put it on or not, but I would like to suggest that we do put it on for discussion. It won't be for any action, but for
Up for
discussion.
discussion?
So should we put that in, like, Karen's getting her exercise.
I'd like to make a suggestion, since it is chair's decision, it could just be addressed during her report that she gives, because ultimately it was her decision, so.
The position can change after hearing
Right, I
the
think
needs
that's
of
the thing,
all
the
the
entire
committees,
board is
since we now have active committees, and you know, we're finding out that time is extremely crucial, extremely crucial.
And that's it for the parking lot of November 13th, 2012. And now we have Susan giving her administrator's report.
Okay, I think you have a copy of it in PowerPoint handout form. And you can, okay. So, first of all, I think we need to step back a little bit, and I'd like to welcome Christy. You are ex officio member, and you weren't here when we started this evening and did our introductions. So welcome. And I just want to wish all of you a happy new year. And we have a lot of work to do, as you indicated in your discussion about the committees. And I want to thank all of you for all the work you do and the time that you do devote to our meetings. With that said, I'm a year behind. I put January 2012, but I'll be corrected. Okay.
I still put that on.
Only on the first
Makes no
slide.
passion. Okay. So, just want to give you a little flavor of some things that have been going on since our last meeting, and share a little bit about what I know, which isn't much, about the governor's proposed budget as it affects special education at this point. So that's kind of the emphasis of the report tonight. Last Friday, we had Therese Butterfield from Santa Barbara SELPA come and present. We had 52 people in attendance, and the topic was the needs of English language learners with disabilities. So often our kids with English, that are English language learners that have disabilities are not able to become fluent in terms of their writing and reading skills, can't pass some of the tests. And so Doris has actually written a handbook in conjunction with the CDE, and you can actually find it on her SELPA website, and it's a wonderful document. So she shared that, it was really well received, and in the afternoon, Amy Foodie and Laura Kism from East Valley SELPA presented on prior written notice, and that was another really good training. Today was the final date that districts could submit a request to transfer the mental health programs from the SELPA to the districts for next year. Other than that, they were to submit their request by September. So as of about 4:30 this evening, I was notified that Etiwanda will be taking back their mental health program next year, and also Chino has submitted that they will be taking theirs. I included some information in here just so you could understand what our local plan says about the program transfer. But basically, there are some procedures that the districts have to follow that they are doing. They have to hold parent input meetings. They have to invite staff and parents to give input as they move forward to make the decisions. They have to bring that information. So in February, they will bring that information back at our PAC and FAC meetings, and then we will move forward. There's a chart that we'll get to when we get to that item that outlines all of the transfer requests we have. There's another technical issue too that I realized when I looked at our timeline and I looked at our policy. It actually says the day on which the transfer will take effect will be no earlier than the first day of the second fiscal year, unless the superintendent's council unanimously approves the transfer. So I anticipate that that will be going on to a superintendent council agenda this year for them to consider. And then it talks about alternative dispute and all of that. Our vocational team, as you know, we have a vocational team of 8 staff who provide workability and transition partnership program trainings and services and job placements in our districts that have middle and high schools. And so on November 28th in Chino District, they held a resource fair, and more than 400 students attended. It was a fabulous event. I went down for over an hour, and we had plumbers, we had the law enforcement agencies, we had insurance agencies, banks, all willing to talk to students about career opportunities. It was interesting, the one man that was from the plumbers union said, you know what, these students would make the best plumbers. I know they would be great plumbers, but right now there's something that stands in the way, and that is, welcome. If they do not have a GED or they do not have a high school diploma, I can't allow them to come into an apprenticeship program. And that's unfortunate. So, you know, we have work to do to be able to open those pathways to students. There was also a young man from Coles that was there outside talking to the students about application and interview process, and it was kind of cute. I said, I need to ask you, when people come to interview at Coles, do you ask them about their Facebook pages? Because I've heard, you know, there are companies that when you go into interview, the first thing they do is say, show me your Facebook page. He said, we as a company do not, but I do know of other companies. So the kids were kind of put on notice, you better be careful about what you have on Facebook. So I thought that was really interesting. On April 8th, there will be a transition partnership program workability, one in Department of Rehab cross-training event. And the WESELPA has made arrangements, and that is because I asked if we could send 2 parents from the CAC to go to a special training. Michelle Borba is going to be training that day on bullying. And I know that's a topic that, you know, our CAC has had training on and is concerned about. So I asked if I could have 2 slots for 2 parents from the CAC who have students in high school. I thought that would be most appropriate because you would have students, if you're at the high school level, that would be participating in workability and TPP, because that's the emphasis of the day. You would also stay to participate in those discussions. So if I can get 2 volunteers, if you want to call me, however you want to handle that, but I have been able to get slots for 2 people. So I thought that was wonderful that we would have that opportunity. Collaboration with agencies. On December 12th and 19th, I visited the California Children's Services MTUs. They're located in OMSD, and they have some requests that I will be following up on. December 3rd, I attended the Improving Special Education Stakeholders meeting. The CDE does that twice a year to get input from the field. They've had some breakout sessions. I went to the one on transition because that's kind of my area of expertise. And they developed some next steps, and I'll be going in June to participate in that. I felt that group really was making progress, so that was exciting. December 4, I met with the deputy for the Department of Developmental Services in Sacramento. Just wanted to confirm with them about AB 104 because the governor, in signing that trailer language a year ago, July, made some changes that it hasn't affected us too much, but other parts of the state were shocked to hear that they absolutely could not put students into adult programs till they reached age 22, whereas they've been sending some that are 18 to 22. We talked about the revision from Part C to Part B services. The regulations have not been finalized. December 10th, I attended, and this was really exciting. CC is a grant out of UCLA, the Tarjan Center, and their whole goal is to improve competitive employment opportunities for individuals with intellectual disabilities. Now you have to understand, competitive employment, those are the key words there, because most of our kids who have intellectual disabilities end up at best receiving sub-minimum wage, and they're looking at opportunities that are not sub-minimum wage, where they would actually have a job, where they would have benefits, and that sort of thing. They have all the key players there. Disability Rights of California was there, wants more regulations, and so I'm kind of sitting in on the same subgroups that they are, because I don't think more regulations are going to be the solution to the problem. I think we need to get the business roundtable and some of those people there. So I'll keep you informed of what happens there. And then January 9th, I've been asked to serve on SAMDABS, which is an advisory group for San Bernardino County Office of Ed. And the focus was on the denial of California's waiver for NCLB. I don't know if you've heard about that. And then the governor's proposed budget. And then, of course, they're saying the big topic with the federal government is going to be safe schools. So let's talk a little bit about the governor's budget. Have you all heard that the governor was looking at a weighted student formula?
Yeah.
Okay, so that means you take the basic amount that would be funded for students, add to it an amount if they're English language learners, add an amount to it if they come from poverty, those sorts of things. The governor has given it a new name in his proposed budget. It's called Local Control Funding Formula, saying that pots of money, and I'm oversimplifying this, I realize, but pots of money would come to us locally to determine how we're going to spend them. Well, we have said, please keep special ed out of that, because for lots of reasons, if special ed gets blended in there, there's no way to go to the government and say we need more money for special ed because we can't determine which is for special ed. And then there would be less money also for general ed. So he did. He left special education separately, and then federal funds were excluded from this proposal, and it's interesting what he's doing with federal funds. And you have to remember, this is his proposed budget. There will be lots of legislative hearings. Then we'll get the revised budget in May, some more negotiations, and then hopefully a budget in June, or they don't get paid, right? So hopefully in June. So we have an issue with bifurcation where we get a COLA on state funds but not federal funds. And so somehow, whatever he's done, and we don't know the details yet, he's separating those funds. We'll have more flexibility with state funds, and there'll be more transparency, apparently. And then they're looking to collapse 15 categories of special ed into 10. And I read something else today where it's the smaller pots of money that are gonna get blended. I don't know what that means. Jeanette is going to school services training tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have more details, and certainly by the time of state SELPA, I hope I'll have more details. So I already talked about 15 into 10, and he's looking at blending the various workability programs, so I'm a little bit concerned about that, because there's workability from middle school, high school, community colleges, and institutions of higher learning, and I don't think it would be to our benefit to have those blended. They've never touched workability before, so it's interesting that they're doing that. And then the mental health funds are going to continue to be separate. So that's a good thing too. Oh my goodness, what happened to my PowerPoint? I didn't look this way on my computer. So remember last month, this is going to be funny. Remember last month when I said everybody met Mo? So I just wanted to show, it's not this kind of COLA, it's this kind of COLA. So that's cost of living adjustment. Donna, I don't think you were here last month, but I said everybody met Emily, and Christy started asking, I'm like, huh? She goes, everybody met Mo. So anyway, we're looking at a COLA for special ed for 1.65%, which isn't very much. An additional 3.6 million for general fund revenue growth, which 3.6 isn't going to go very far across the state, and an increase out of 40 million to assist with 0 to 5. I don't know what happened to this.
Aren't they just gonna hold the COLA like they always do and not give it to us?
So this is the proposed budget. So you can see I said keep calm and stay tuned, because I think that's the message right now. We don't know what will happen in the end.
And Susan, I have a couple questions for you. The first, second slide, you said meeting the needs of English learners. I read in the newspaper that there was 2 assembly bills that were going to come out for English learners. They haven't been approved yet, but is that going to?
So maybe that'll be in the next legislative session if I go through the process.
Right, because
I'm
there's 2
sure we'll
bills
hear.
coming up. And also, I heard that the San Bernardino County, there were 7,000 kids removed from county and placed back at the district levels. Do you know about that? Okay, it was in Dr. Thomas's report for the county that they lost 7,000 kids, not lost, but it went back to the district. And I was just wondering, is there any follow-up with those 7,000 kids?
That's my concern, called program transfer, and the school districts aren't even ready to take those kids.
So you've got to realize that we have 6 SELPAs in the county. So each of the SELPAs could make a program transfer request within their own SELPA and go through the process. So I have no idea, except for what we'll report to you this evening in terms of those in our SELPA.
Do you know how many of those 7,000 kids are from Weston SELPA and the kids that went back to the district?
I don't even want to guess.
Can we put that on the parking lot so we can actually get that number? I'd like to see that number.
Sure. We can kind of speculate.
And actually see the number of how many they were supposed to take and they said they would initially take when it was approved at the superintendent, and how many they actually took.
Right. I
Because
failed to
sometimes they
mention, I had
decide
one
not
request
to.
yesterday to rescind their request. Mountain View is not moving forward. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. Do you want to?
What exactly am I putting on the parking lot?
How many students do you anticipate will be impacted by the program transfer?
Well, can I actually get the count from the last program transfer from last school year, when at first it was initiated by the school districts?
Do you want a single number?
Yes, which school districts proposed to do a transfer, how many kids were impacted, which ones withdrew it, and then if they did take, and they did do the transfer, did they take all the pupils that they said they were going to take, or did they pick and choose? And when I mean pick and choose, I don't mean they held an IEP meeting and the parent decided not to bring the kid. It's where they pick and choose and decide this kid's too severe at the last minute.
I think regardless of what we think up front, when a district says they're going to take a specific population, it's always individualized. decision. So if,
Not when
It
it comes to the superintendent agenda, it's not.
no, but what I was going to say, let's say there's a student in your district, and it's clearly apparent that they would not benefit by going back to the school district cannot meet their needs. They're gonna have to have that discussion through the IP process to determine what's the appropriate placement. And so it may be that there are some students that ultimately the decision will be, we're taking back the program in concept, providing a new program ourselves, but it may be that it's not in the best interest of every student to go.
Okay, it's supposed
And I
to
wouldn't
work
have that
way, but it
information.
doesn't.
Okay. Well, we'll get
That's
you
why I
some
like the
numbers.
counts, and that's why I keep asking, you know, it goes on the parking lot, exactly how can the SELPA and the school districts ensure that they can meet the needs of the transfers? Okay, because I saw firsthand of the transfer of the program that didn't go so well, and let me tell you, I was not happy.
So, well, why don't you come talk to me in my office, because I think this is an issue specific to some things maybe in your district.
No, this has been through all the school districts. It's just not my school district, and it's been allowed for years. And I've always mentioned it at the SELPA meetings. This is an ongoing thing that has always been an issue. They get an agenda item that barely has any details, and they just approve it like it's no big deal. It's like a stamp of approval no matter what.
Okay,
With
so,
no questions asked of if the school district can, if anybody's gone in to see if the school district can actually really do it and accept these people. And I don't mean just a written report. I've seen written reports, and you can see the loopholes in those reports, and it's like, well, how are you going to do this and this? You know, and it's like, well, we're taking it back.
I will support Mo on this entirely, because I may have mentioned it another time, that, you know, the reason I'm here is because 12 years ago, Chino Valley was doing the same thing, and we, you know, and they had to eventually rescind it exactly because of this. We didn't think that the resources were in place to make that transfer successfully for the children. And it's, you know, when I saw Bank of Health now, I'm hoping we're taking the right steps to make sure those children are serviced as well, because that is a very big thing. I think there's a well-intentioned, it's a financial thing, and that's all very well. But it's an extremely important thing to make sure that those services are available.
well, a couple of things. I don't want to cut off conversation, but we do have that within the agenda.
But I just wanted to
And the other
make sure
thing
that
is,
it's important.
perhaps at some time, maybe the person can write with you, Peggy McPhee, who runs the county operated programs, and you could ask us some questions, and you could hopefully get some answers that will help to allay some of your concerns.
So I have a question for the April 8th, that CEC where you invited two parents.
Yes.
Okay, is there a certain deadline date that we should call you, like the people who want to volunteer, the two parents? Like, and where is this gonna take place? I maybe missed that.
It's gonna be here.
Oh, it's gonna be here. Oh, okay.
But since they didn't have parents or CAC parents as part of who they were inviting, I said, could I have two representatives? That's what I do a lot of times at training, send a couple of people and they come back and share, so that was my thought. Send two parents with high school students and they can come back and share.
And Michelle Burke is wonderful as a presenter, so
Okay,
it would be in for a treat.
she's frequently on MSNBC and was last year a keynote at the ACT.
Okay, and April 8th is a Monday, so I just want to know. Okay,
Let's do this. If people are interested, the first two that contact me, is that okay?
Sure.
I'm
I would,
interested.
yeah, I would.
You got to.
I got you too.
Everybody's good with that? Okay. You can confirm. And then you can bring back the full report. Awesome.
And one more question, Susan. You said you visited the CCS at OMSD. I know one of them is at Lincoln. I've never been involved with CCS, and I know some parents have asked me, and I don't know where to refer them to. What does CCS do?
California Children's Services provides medically related occupational therapy and physical therapy for kids. but it goes way beyond that. Sometimes they provide durable equipment, like wheelchairs, hearing aids, those sorts of things. And I believe that oftentimes qualifying for the services may be related to income levels. Last year, there was a move by the governor to actually, just like with AB 3632 with the mental health, to decide those services are going to be provided by schools in the future. And so that's another reason why, we want to keep the lines of communication open with CCS to see what everybody's hearing, because we still anticipate that's going to be revisited.
So let's just pretend that it's the income level's low and the child outgrew the wheelchair or the wheelchair's falling apart. And even though they had several repairs, that's where, I could maybe refer parents to.
Never hurts to apply.
Yeah, CCS,
They're part of the county government.
the county. Thank you, Susan.
But don't they work heavily with DBS to put me into services?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Usually the
who
regional
oversees
center
them
clients.
at the state level,
Mhm.
but locally, they're part of the county government.
And now I have my chairperson's report. I want to welcome everybody, Happy New Year. And welcome Christy, congratulations. Mo, congratulations on your re-election. And I wanted to thank Edith. Edith had a great suggestion that she told me about, and on December 18th, we were able to go to an open house for Assemblywoman Norma Torres and present a special education coordinator an award, and that was Edith's idea. And the I want to say that coordinator was practically crying when she received the award. It was very nice, a very nice suggestion from Edith. And Edith, thank you for taking time and being there. And I know that she really appreciated that thought.
So did you guys give the award to her, or she received the award?
She received it from Assemblywoman Norma Torres.
And from the U.S. Air Force, is it Air Force?
No, it's National Guard.
The National Guard was also present with their uniforms, and that was a beautiful plaque.
Yes.
That was very
And who was
amazing.
the person that received it, the coordinator?
The advisor from Ontario High School, Lori Zapia, was the person in charge of all the IEPs, 504. I mean, she's amazing.
So thank you, Edith, for suggesting that. I thought that was a wonderful thing that you thought of. Thanks. That's it. That's my report. And I don't have any public comments. No? Hi. That's the first.
We made this
And now we come to the business action items. CAC bylaws recommendation.
I'd like to move to approve the bylaws revision to the major duties of the chairperson as stated in E1, including the numbering of the bylaw pages.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
We need a second.
I second.
Oh, okay. I was late. I was late, I'm sorry, guys. Can I still ask a question? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so this is, I want to get it clear that if this is for the chairperson, is that what we're saying, to develop the agenda for the CAC meetings, am I correct? That this is to approve?
in collaboration.
In collaboration. In collaboration, what would be the process, say, for example, so we wouldn't have to go through this meeting request today, it could be in place, do we email the chairperson? What is the process if we, as a CAC member, want something on the agenda or like to change something, or add to the agenda, add to the agenda. Is that through emailing the chairperson? Is that the way to do it? Or do we have to get together, or
An email.
an email?
An email, a single email.
Okay,
With CC to
just out.
myself and Sharon.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if I should do that or not, for this today, so
Christine?
Yeah, my concern is the last sentence that was added on to this bylaw change, because the local plan has a form on it from CDE, and it's on that form designated, I think it's called LED-2. Designated on that form through CDE, it clearly says chairperson signature. So opening it up to say that any CAC member can sign off on the local plan goes against what the CDE form states. So my concern is specifically that sentence.
Okay, that hadn't even been in the purview of what we were discussing, so, the history, Karen, maybe you know the history about, because that wasn't something we were proposing to change.
No, that was from the superintendents, I think.
Superintendents,
Wasn't that from the superintendent's?
Yes, that's right, the superintendents, because they were concerned that the way it was worded before, it looked as though they would be the only ones to sign, and so it says, a CAC member signature will be represented on local plan reviews, so that, see how it said, here it is, the strike off, sign off on local plan reviews, that's all it said before, sign off on local plan reviews. And they didn't want it to look like it was just the CAC signing off, but they were apportioned so they're represented. So it wasn't about the person to sign it, it was a clarification that it's not a CAC sign off only, it's that they're to be represented, they're part of the group to sign off.
And in any case, if I may also, I mean, you know, that typically in most signatures, there's always an option to write, you know, like my father's not well, so I signed for him and saying daughter. So it's not just because it says chairperson, I don't know if it's that nobody else but a chairperson can sign it. It's not an unusual thing to have somebody sign for. It doesn't have to be the only thing.
Have you seen the previous local plan and who signed off on it?
I think if the last one was Cheryl, wasn't it Cheryl? Yeah.
So it wasn't to
I think it's
sign
an
off in
intentional.
any way,
Or
the
the person
chairman
that's in
doing it.
charge,
It was just to
when she's
clarify,
not able to.
the intent looked like it was that they would be signing off. And it's supposed to be, you have a number of signatures of who has to sign off.
I'd like to suggest that at the next CAC meeting, that this is on the agenda, that this goes before the WESELPA superintendents, so they understand that that does have to be rewritten. It can't say a CAC member, not on the local plan.
Their intent was to ensure that you have CAC represented. I think we're like
You know,
trying to overanalyze it. I think their intent was, instead of, see, look at the second page, sign off on local plan reviews.
but the bylaws should be written the way that the laws are meant for things if we're referring to them, like the local plan. The local plan, the one signature page, it specifically says the CAC chair. And I even think there is an ed law that even specifies, and I think it's even in the local plan that specifies that if the chairperson is unable to, that her backup person can, which is the, yeah, is it the chair-elect? Is it the chair-elect?
So do you want it to say,
Because you almost have to sign once in a while.
Donna, you're here, do you think if we were to say a CAC chair member,
No, they had Cheryl's son.
Signature.
Cheryl used to sign it.
if we were to change that to the CAC chair member?
I don't see it as a problem.
And I'd be happy to amend my motion to include that in that form. That's not a problem.
And then our bylaw.
If the second, I don't know who seconded it, whoever seconded it though. Okay,
I
all right.
seconded, modified.
okay, I have no problem with that.
So Russell amends it
Mhm.
For the CAC
And
chair
can I have
member.
exactly, what exactly we're amending, because I didn't.
That last sentence, a
That's the
CAC
chairperson
member signature
signature.
will be represented in all local plan reviews. And we're changing it to,
The CAC chairperson
Chairperson.
signature
Right.
will be represented.
sure, I have no problem with that.
Thank you.
Now, if chairperson is not available for whatever reason, then
Then
who
you
will
need
take
chairman.
place, because it will have to be signed.
In our
The chairman.
bylaws, it
So
defaults to
it
the
does,
chairman.
so it is in the bylaw.
Sure.
All
It
those,
doesn't have to be written down here, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be written
No,
down this
no.
part. That's getting it clear.
That's all it is.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carries. And Susan, discussion, actually,
At the most recent superintendent's council meeting, it was recommended that we review one of our policies in the local plan, and that is our civility policy. So you all have a copy of it, and it's very simple. Basically, what it says is, I think the first sentence encapsulates all of it. All Weston SELPA staff members will treat parents and other members of the public with respect and will expect the same in return. So then when that doesn't happen, we have some guidance on what we are to do. So if somebody disrupts, threatens, or whatever, we are to ask them to stop, we ask them to leave. If they won't, basically we call law enforcement. And depending on the circumstances, there could even be a misdemeanor involved because this is based on penal code. So then there's an incident report that any staff member who's related or who's involved in this would complete and give to their supervisor. So in a nutshell, that's it. They ask that we review it and see if there are any recommended changes. Pretty much it's all based on legal references cited at the bottom. And
I think it needs to be changed. It shouldn't just say if a public person. It should also say a public person or a West End SELPA employee or a school district employee. Because I've seen it where the person that is being destructive, rude, cursing, being violent is a SELPA employee or a school district employee.
I don't think it excludes them.
Yeah,
Because it
kind of
says
some
all
of it I was
West End
reading.
staff members will treat parents and other members of the public with respect and expect the same in return. So if it were one of our employees, it would apply just the same way. Any person who enters the West End SELPA facilities, that would not exclude an employee.
But like right here, it says, the corrective action is not taken by the
Which item?
abusing party. The Weston SELPA employee will verbally notify the abusing party that the meeting conference, the telephone conference is terminated. Well, what happens if it's a public, I mean,
But it becomes a personnel issue then, and so the supervisor
what
would.
if you have a SELPA employee threatening a parent? I'm
Absolutely.
saying, there should be a protocol that what a parent can do also.
Several years.
I would have liked having something written like that, so when I was being attacked in the past, I had a protocol. I can't tell you how many years I was waiting for a protocol.
Yeah, several years ago, there was an incident in the parking lot where I don't know if he's the janitor or what he is, but he did go face to face with a woman and was very verbally abusive. And if it hadn't been for some gentleman in that parking lot, he was just telling her off.
So that then was San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools employee.
It was a
So
self-employed.
that, it was a SELPA?
No, it's not.
It's a county employee.
It was a
Not
county.
a SELPA.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about issues related to the SELPA, what goes on with the activities of the SELPA.
Okay.
And that then
That
should have been
county.
brought to the attention of the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools.
This building is county building, it's not the SELPA building. We just kind of rent upstairs. So the
Okay.
employees that run this building are San Bernardino County superintendent employees, not SELPA employees.
So your options, we could either decide information about aspects of it, they could come with proposed revisions, or we could say that it's pretty much based on legal code, and could be wordsmith.
I'm sorry,
Say we review
just
it and
con-
come to that. We review it and I say we could do it and bring it back if anybody has ideas that they would like to.
Okay?
is that what there are, I mean, is to read it and suggest changes? I mean, is that, what are we doing out of this?
What I would like to
Discussion
suggest
It is a
is
discussion, oh, that's right.
there is an online service through CSBA that I have access to, and other people might have access to. Christiana, you have access to it as a board member, but we could go back and review the legal citations to make sure that there's no updated language, or if there's updated language to modify it accordingly. And if you have other questions about the policy, or if the concerns like Mo raised tonight, that would be the time to do it. But I think it should be time dedicated just to the policy and not at one of these meetings, because we get too bogged down when we've got so much business to handle. So I would think that that would be your legislative committee that you might want to send that to, Martina.
Legislative? Russell?
I have a general question. Is this already part of the local plan?
It was, yeah.
Oh, it was.
It is, yeah.
Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, it's actually part of our existing local plan. And the procedures in there, policy and procedures.
Okay.
And you see the page numbers at the bottom of each page.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're gonna take that back to the legislative committee. Items, 2 through 6 were tabled on May 15, 2012 meeting. Each item will be discussed and the next steps will be determined. The number 2 is, I'm sorry, Edith is gonna go next with the presentation flyer and the committee review minutes.
Okay, I just want to say that we did have our meeting on December 6th, and like I stated before, with all of our committee meetings, I feel that the time is very crucial, especially if for some reason we don't have a quorum. We need to bring it all before, especially with the presentations. You know, we have this one, we have April, so I want to make like the next meeting like very soon. Welcome, Christy, I'm sorry we didn't welcome you. So we did have a meeting on December 6th, and you know, Marcel, Martina, Kun, and myself, we got pretty busy, and it was a really good meeting. We did not have no public input. So what we did, of course, getting this next presentation ready was the main focus of the meeting. Amy Foodie did come and gave us suggested, because we had a few questions, and Martina was my secretary, so thank you, Martina, for taking all the minutes. So we did come with a plan, we did come with that advice on a couple of presenters, and being that everybody is so busy, we whoever schedule was available and best fitted for that day would be the one. So the theme, as you all know, we all got the results from the surveys from Rose at our last meeting, and the topics would be homework, behavior, and the third topic is transition. So we all decided those are going to be our 3 topics for the presentation. Since we have 2 presentations left, February and April, this next one will be, and you all have the flyer today, it will be homework and behavior. Again, we did also discuss a little bit about it at our last CAC, and you know, we were all part of it. Where's my flyer? Okay. So we are very lucky to have Dr. Ramon Barreras from OMSC, one of our psychologists who's done many, many years of a lot of experience in a lot of different things. And he actually agreed to come and give a presentation too. So we all have the flyer here, and so I'm really happy and very relieved that we got it done. I want to emphasize just a little bit on this flyer. as far as, I really feel it's very important that we have our parents, and it is in Spanish, that they RSVP, that they do let us know that they're gonna come, our Spanish-speaking parents that will need translation, you know, because it's very, very important. And I know, I tell my parents, and so I know, maybe, obviously, we have more parents, so if you can, Martina, and, you know, and if please, let them know. The number is here and it's written in Spanish. So I hope you guys, you know, are very happy. You did give us a green light to go ahead and take care of it, and we got it done. So the flyer is done. Our next presentation will be in April, and that will be transition. I am very happy to hear that you were part of that, Susan, in the last you attended those that you attended those seminars they have to do with transitions. And so I am going to, as chair of this committee, and I'm going to call you and ask for advice also for our next presentation. But I'm asking all of you to email me any information or any request, if that's okay, about what your ideas would be or opinions would be, even those of you who are not in the committee. Again, the time is very, very difficult. I feel very bad for those of you who could not be at this meeting. Unfortunately, we all have full-time jobs, and being that we have other commitments and committees in the evening, only in the morning worked for me, and for 95% of us it did also. So I actually foresee that the next one is going to be also on a Thursday morning. So just to give you a heads up on that. So please email me any suggestions, any ideas. Christy, I'm so glad you're on. Hopefully you'll come to the next meeting, because you're going to be I'm going to use you a lot for computer stuff. So we got that done. I don't know if you needed to add anything, Martina, since you were there as our chair and things happened. Our other suggestions came. We also got a parking lot, which I actually already shared, and to get some answers. But Marcel had a good recommendation for a presentation he went to at Ewanda, and it was through West End Counseling about behavior, adolescents, and so we will maybe go also that way and see if they have any on transitions, since they deal with behavior and all of that. So I wanted to let you know that. Also, I let South Illinois, I let Karen know, because Susan was gone out of town with the family, something wrong. So you have all the information. You were going to look into that for us.
At first I thought it was Ed1 that put it on, and then I realized you're talking Weston Family Counseling.
Weston Family Counseling. So we're looking into that, if we have something like that. Okay, so that flyer is down. We're going to move forward. Again, the time is very, very difficult and hard, so we need to, if it looks like it's next week or so, it's only because we have only one more CAC meeting that has to be brought up. So I want to know that we have the green light to move forward for the next flyer. If anybody has any questions about our next presentation, please let me know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused. The standing committee has a meeting, brings it to the CAC, and it's not a discussion item. They actually vote on it if it's going to be done or not. So I'm confused.
Yeah, and
you went ahead and did it without bringing it forward to the CAC.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Back in November, it was voted that we were going to do behavior and homework. And so it was already voted that we were going to do the presentation on that. We got together and we brainstormed on who was going to be the presenter.
Yeah, because this is the surveys that we got from Rose through the surveys.
Well, yeah, you picked the presenters and you actually carried out the whole thing instead of bringing it forward to the CAC as a whole.
Yeah.
So now I'm concerned because, me as the committee chair of the art and writing contest that has no voting rights, I'm supposed to do everything for the art and writing contest and just put it as a discussion item and say, this is what I'm going to do?
Actually, I totally understand your point, Mo, and I agree with you, and I totally understand.
Well, I'm glad you were able to do it this way, but technically it wasn't supposed to be, but I'm afraid the same is not going to be done for me for the CAC now. for the art and writing contest.
Exactly, and I totally agree with you, and I totally understand your point, and that's why I am saying that making these meetings for certain committees, like the art writing contest,
As
the
an ad
education,
hoc.
as an ad hoc, it would be the best, because if we had brought it up today, we would have to go over it, review it, we would have to print the flyers, our schools and our parents would not get this on time.
And you would get 6 weeks.
It would be the 6 weeks.
And I understand that and
Yeah.
everything,
Right.
but now am I gonna be given the same option that you guys have?
Well, I think that every committee will have, will have to
If I
work.
could
I-
clarify too,
Yeah.
if you read the November minutes, now I was not here, but in the November minutes, it actually says under the E5 for the February presentation that after the review of the parent survey, members move forward to have the parent and community education committee plan the February presentation topic of homework tips and behavior techniques. The committee will meet and finalize all the presentation. So they basically, the way I understood it then, is that the committee actually, or the members here,
Yes.
actually said we do have a time.
Standing committee, I understood it as, you guys were gonna come up with some presenters, you guys were gonna bring them forward, but I understand what you're saying. And I'm great it's all done and all that, because it is, it's time
So
consuming.
I think that what we need to do, because this is our first year, I mean, I am so glad that we now have our committees. I am so glad we have our committees and our chair people and that we have all of us. And I think that from my experience now, I know that we need to move, in August when we come back, we need to come back with some dates already with our committees to get together in the beginning of the year and get the meetings done the first 2 months of the year because of the time. I really, it's our first time really moving through with our committee, so and that was gonna be one of my suggestions and opinions in my observation and how difficult it is, that we, in the beginning of the year, get our meetings going, and this way we don't have to, we can present it at our CAC meetings and have it done, so we're not in this spot,
And,
which,
in the past, we have already, we already had the dates, the topics, when it was gonna be a business meeting, and when it was gonna be a presentation. It was never approved back several months ago. So that's why we're in this dilemma. And remember, in the past, we have always had the topics
yeah.
and which one's gonna be a business meeting, which one's gonna be a presentation.
I would like to put that as a
Those
suggestion.
You had that.
And I would like to put this as a suggestion that in our last meeting in May, we just determined the 3 topics for the presentations, and I can have, if I'm still gonna be the president and, the chair, I can have the meetings as soon as possible when we start the year, and then we can come and bring it to the committee. So I think we both are in agreement on all this. Again, the time and having it a standing committee sometimes, but that doesn't matter, like you said, we have to bring it to the CAC.
Well, my question is am I gonna be allowed to do that with the CAC art and writing contest?
I'm saying that whatever.
Yes.
Here's the dilemma. When you look at our meetings for the remainder of the year, here we are, January with the business meeting, February with the presentation, March is art and writing judging, April is presentation, April 30th is the ceremony. So we don't have another business meeting.
But we have to, because you have to get certain things on the SELPA agenda that, the superintendent's SELPA agenda that we have to see before it can go, and that's usually the physical stuff, because the way it reads.
Physical? So actually, May 14th would be the meeting we bring the annual service plan and annual budget plan before it goes to the superintendent's about 2 weeks later.
But another thing is that, we could have a meeting, I was hoping that by today we would have a report, not just on my committee, but we would have a report on every single committee, and that by now we would have had already a meeting for every single committee. So in reality, we could call the meeting at any time, so.
We needed the elections to, move forward, so we could meet with the legislators, so
Because
that
we've
was on
had
hold.
already our chairs for every committee was already done back in October. So, we've had all this time that we could have at least one meeting for each single one of them. So by this time, I was hoping we've already had called a meeting for every single.
I didn't know I was the chair of the art and writing contest until November.
Right, so, when it was, I think it was October, because Rose had a meeting in November for her committee. So it was in, I think it was.
But I think it all boils down to, like, I think at our last meeting, Martina, you also were sort of, I think something happened and you couldn't call an executive committee meeting. So, I mean, those things happen, and I think, again, I really want to bring this out again. This discussion will go on, but I really think we need to keep in mind the executive committee and the ad hoc committee for the kinds of, all kinds of committees that and the work within the committees, because this is an ongoing issue. We all know, we're all volunteers. There's 5 meetings don't sound enough, but there are plenty to, on everybody's schedule, and it's just been the hardest thing to sort of schedule even more committees, especially under the requirements of, the 72 hours and get it out and get the agenda out and everything. So I really think we should keep this in mind, because there will be these issues. There won't be enough time. We won't be able to gather enough people. So both things need to go side by side. So I hope Martina.
And I underline that, and that's my reason that I'd like to see a discussion.
Right. No,
on here.
I hope, Martina, you will consider that the issues that we are going through in the,
I apologize, Kumkum, but I have called several meetings and nobody shows up, or when you do show up, you table everything. So I do apologize, that has happened, but I have tried. I've tried several times. Okay.
Martina, may I suggest something?
So
But I've been told that everybody all of a sudden wants to do morning appointments. I can't do morning
But
appointments.
I think if you send out your email, we could, if we have 2 committees for morning, I can certainly take some time out work to do your committee, because I am going to respect your time. For your job, Mo. I feel very comfortable that we have a good foundation for our art and writing contest. I really feel proud of and how it's been going. I feel very proud of it, and I think we have an excellent foundation for this. This is a little harder because we have to work at different things. But I think if you send an email, I'm going to respect, and I guarantee you that I'll take some time off to go to the art writing contest. I'm in that committee.
Your email said you could only do.
For that time, you gotta remember it was just right out around the holidays, but I will guarantee you again, I will go to a committee and I'll take the time off. So, since we've had chairs since October, our new chairs for our committee, so I'm just glad we have them and we're gonna move forward. So I think we should move forward, so I don't take all the
Did
time.
you get to finish your report? I thought you wanted to talk
Oh,
about.
no, I haven't finished, I'm sorry guys, so that's just, what's going on. Okay, so we have the flyer and again, all the input and all.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
We have talked about the possibility of videotaping these workshops so that we have a resource that can be developed for each and every.
You know what, I don't have it in the minutes, I don't have it in the minutes, but,
The anti-bullying training is up on the website that happened in November, thanks to Christy.
Yeah, and I'm thinking topics like this one, for example, motivating your child, is so hot that and others, bullying and so on and so forth. But we began to collect a series of presentations that can be made available to the schools or to groups of parents who might be interested. It would give us an additional resource,
Right.
Right.
I think you
a little
mentioned
bit more mileage for the presenters.
well, I leave that to our chair.
I'm sorry, I don't remember the videotaping. I do remember that we discussed like newsletters, electronic version, and SELPA link.
Right.
I don't remember the
But
video.
No, I think I raised the question in the subcommittee.
Yeah.
But regardless, would that be a possibility, or?
We'll have to bring it to the committee then.
Yeah.
So I'll write it down.
Christy puts it in YouTube. It's available. I mean, I think, do you
Is
do
that
the
what you're
link?
wanting, or you want something else?
Well, I think it would be a wonderful thing to begin collecting, particularly presenters that are really hard to secure, and when you have someone like Dr. Barreras.
Yeah.
But you have to get their permission. Some of them don't want to be taped because they sell their own tape, so you have to use caution.
Sure.
So it would
We obviously.
especially if you bring in somebody professional to do it. The YouTubing, you know,
It's, well, I'm wondering if we could find out from the county what would be involved. You were our designated videographer and put them up on our website.
And the chairs.
Chris, can you look into that one? Should I put that in the parking
It's in
lot?
parking lot.
Okay, that'll be in the parking lot. Chris, did you take the bowling?
Yes,
Yes, it's in, and it's in YouTube.
yes.
Yeah, because it's a public meeting.
It's a public meeting.
Okay, the next item that was discussed and is the development of a newsletter. And I actually asked Susan there's an example of her newsletter from her previous WESELPA. And it's very gorgeous and beautiful and in color,
Yeah,
you know.
there it is.
And they have the spring and fall, and they have it in Spanish. So we feel that that would be a great thing for us to do. However, because of budgets at this moment, developing one would be great, but actually placing it in an electronic version on the West and South of CAC to start that way.
Yeah.
Start this way, and then move forward with that, and have one in the spring and then one in the fall.
Right.
And upon request, if parents wanted a print copy of it, we can start that way. Again, the budget is what is
but we
the
can also
concern.
ask our school districts if they'll print it and process it and hand it out.
Okay.
I believe some of our school districts will do that.
And even a natural, I think I still have that, I don't know if I only have a PDF, but you could basically take the one from last spring, and after Martina and Russell and I go to legislating, you could kind of follow the format, we'll have something to report about their visit to legislating in April.
Exactly. And those were one of some of the things we already talked about. That we talked about. Say for the spring coming up, what we'll do is first and do the CAC presentation. What is CAC? Many parents don't know what a CAC is. Again, this is we want your information and your advice on what topics we should put and what articles we should put. The welcoming of Susan would be the other one. And then we thought this would be the perfect place to have our awards for the 6 staff members of the school districts that Martina had mentioned before, which we were struggling and where to do it. So this is where we could announce it and also give their superintendent and their board as the certificate, so they can present it to them at their board meeting or at their school, so they can also their peers. Many times they come in, we're the ones who we want their peers, and we want the board members to know who these employees are. So that would be another thing we would have here, updates on the 5 districts. We've all used to have our directors of every district used to come and give a little report, or so can give a little brief information of what's going on in their district. We can have a little report of each district here. Also have a little more reason, but that's the idea, to have that. And so we want to know if that should be a goal, because again we're bringing it up here today. So
You want it as an agenda item at next CAC business.
So
Is it part of the bylaws as far as
There's a
what
newsletter
the
in the
committee
bylaws.
does already? It's part of the bylaws of what your committee does.
yes, this is
I don't think you need formal approval.
well, yeah,
It's
right.
already
I don't
exists.
either.
No, right. So
But we
Move
do
on.
want to invite
Move
you
ahead.
to participate in the parent and community education committee, so you could go ahead and do the flyer for us.
we got you a lot of jobs, Christy. So.
I'm sorry, but she's good at doing the flyers and stuff.
Yeah, I
so-
know. So it is. It is right there in the committee paper, the description, like you said, of what
Yeah.
it
It
says.
actually says they'll have articles in the WESELPA newsletter, I believe.
Yeah.
I saw that today.
So Christy, we invite you to participate in the next standing
Sure.
committee.
It says here through newspapers, newsletters, articles, presentations. Parent awareness. That is the function.
I would like to suggest that we tell them to go ahead and, they can bring back a rough copy of the newsletter before it goes out. And then,
Oh, yes.
again, the committee can go
Yeah.
ahead, this is my whole point. The committee can go ahead and work but we still get to see it before it goes out and make recommendations and say yes or no, or yes with these changes.
So the staff, again, you brought that up, that it is stated in our bylaw, that's what we do, so we don't need a vote to follow through with that. Mar, are you okay with that?
Oh, no, I'm fine
So
with
you
it.
guys can, but you think it's the final version and then.
Yeah,
Sure,
and this is why I'm
absolutely.
asking all of you to please email me tomorrow, tonight, as soon as now, your topics what you will like, and then we can have a certain limit. If it's electronic, we can have a lot more. So, that's the project now with the newsletter. We are gonna follow through. We'll have our first one this spring. And the next one was actually the development of our resource handbook or handbook for our parents. We have a lot of resources, and it was actually in the parking lot a question if SELPA has already information available on a lot of the resources and their phone numbers and their email and description. And I wanted again to show an example of Susan's at her previous SELPA, which is really big, has tons and tons of resources for parents and phone numbers and so on and so on.
And
So,
that one was for Central California, like.
yeah.
So you could take the same agencies and just stuff local.
Right. So I did ask SELPA if we have already one handbook with resources, and the answer was yes. We have something that is already started, and I don't know how many resources we have in there. We have a lot, but you have a few. But my question is that we will have to just review all the resources that are in there, so we can add more from what you have. And that's another thing that I'm asking you to email me the resources, agencies, organizations, support groups, whatever you have, and if we already have it, great. We also want it because we want to update the phone numbers, if there's any new phone numbers or email addresses. We want to do that. Again,
If you have a caution, double check on any websites where you get a link, make sure that it's still a current website. There's nothing more disappointing than going and clicking and it's no longer there.
okay. So we'll go ahead and check on that one.
You're on a roll.
Well, we wanted to get things done because I only get you guys here, and I think that's about it. I think we got everything done. Parking lot was that. We got it. So, okay, so that's all that I have. And again, thank you for those who came. And I feel again we're gonna have to call. I'm gonna call meeting very soon. And Christy, I sure hope you make it because you're gonna be. I really.
Excellent job.
Yeah, and I am gonna try, my best to. I'm not saying all the meetings are gonna be in the morning. I am gonna try my best to make it in the evening. I think what I'll do is I'll alternate a morning and an evening, a morning and an evening, because I see that this committee, we're gonna have to get together quite a bit to do our newsletter and our handbook. So we cannot meet only once and then wait for the CEC. We have to meet more than once. Okay, so that's it. That's my question.
Could the minutes reflect that the committee said go ahead on the newsletter and then bring it back to us?
That would be
Right,
helpful.
yeah.
Also, on those flyers for February, they will be in my office tomorrow, going out to the students to count. So give it about 2 weeks, they should be at your districts being distributed.
Thank you.
So let me get verification, again, clarification. Because it says what the committees are able to do on the bylaws, the description, that we can actually do all that and we do not have to bring it forward to the CAC as a whole, even though that's what Martina had always wanted done as the chairperson, as a standing committee. I just want verification because you were reading off the description for that committee off that gave them the right to supposedly do that. So I just want clarification.
Remember maybe last year when there was a transition meeting and it was voted that that's what we were going to do, and Sharon had a certain age group and then you had middle school and then someone else had something else. I know there was 3 different sections. I mean, we voted that that presentation was gonna be about that topic, and then you were gonna get
As a
somebody from.
CAC as a whole, not as a standing committee.
Yeah, but we voted on the behavioral and the homework, and that was gonna be the topic. And we just didn't know who the presenter was gonna be. So it was voted on, it was approved.
There is no business meeting in between now and the art and writing, so I think it's at your purview of how it proceeds. Right?
Right.
You know, I wouldn't like any, I have parents, you know, we all have parents that the kids are just so looking forward to the art and writing contest. I mean, in high school, I met a mom, she was crying because her son, that's the talent he has. And he was so proud that he started painting pictures and paper plates and selling them at the park from the art and writing contest that they were.
That's correct.
So-
But the creator of the art and writing contest has taken on stuff that she shouldn't have by being verbally, I would say, discredited, seeing that she uses it as a political tool. And now it's going to be very hard and complicated to figure out how the art and writing contest is going to work because certain individuals in the CAC committee do not want this individual involved.
I don't think
Because
I
of
remember
personal
that ever
feelings
as a
in that.
topic, as far as my concern, as far as my vote, and as far as my, I think that, again, we have a great foundation, we've done a great thing. We need to just do what is needed and we follow what we have. I mean, I am happy with what we have.
No, I'm just
So I
saying
think we do
because
the same in follow
me as being the committee chair, I'm going to approach Joan Weiss again and ask her again if she will help. She said before she would, and then I got an email that said she wouldn't all of a sudden because something occurred, and I don't know what happened.
Well, I do recall people were asking to have it at different districts. That was not my goal. My goal is to have it where we've had it all the time, just because we
It's your
have it.
choice.
But,
You're the chair.
but,
That's where
you
they
know,
want it.
Now let's ask you a couple of questions.
We're 3 months away from the event. Do you feel like it's something we can carry on this year?
Yeah, just as long as people don't sabotage it all the way, yes. It would be a very easy
So
task to take
have you
on.
started to work on a schedule for when you have your subcommittee meetings?
Yeah, I'll do another email and hopefully people will say that they can do it.
Because you have plenty of people here, I think, that are more than willing to assist you. But it's a huge event, so that's why I just wanted
That's
to check
why.
in with.
And why reinvent the wheel when Joan Weiss already knows how to do everything, how everything is in place, what we need to do, you know, follow her guidelines, and then maybe eventually the CAC can take it over. But as I see it now, it's a huge responsibility, and we still need access to the creator of the art and writing contest, no matter what people's personal feelings are regarding that individual.
And that was something that she did on her own time
Yes,
voluntarily.
and she spent a lot of her own money.
Mo, if you feel so strongly about it, you could go ahead and withdraw from being a chairperson.
Oh, no, I won't withdraw now that I know that I have the right to hold the committee and actually do the process.
I don't know what it's been involved as far as what you're talking about, Mo. This is the first time I'm hearing all this. But as the CAC committee, not just, you know, the subcommittee, just the entire committee, can we request Joan Weiss for her support?
Okay, what I'm going by is when, and it's on YouTube too, when Christy made the comment that Joan Weiss shouldn't be used as the CAC representative for the art and writing contest.
But we did not vote, and
Because
Christie
she
was
is
not
a
a
board
voting.
member and it's a
Clarification.
conflict.
Clarification.
Was not a-
It was
I
in
said
so
on
many
YouTube-
words like that.
I said in YouTube that I thought that we should have it in a different location. That's what I said.
Right.
And it's at your purview, your discretion. It's always been. You're the chair of that
I
committee.
remember the
End of
comments.
story.
There were some comments that alluded to the person
And it
involved.
set off
Well,
You said
But
to put
That I
them
have
in
been
a
trying to put
position.
out flames.
let's move beyond that though. We don't have a lot of time. Let's go ahead with it. Christie said go ahead with it.
So I think the
Mo,
last-
we'll go, let's go ahead with it. Let's go ahead with it with the
No,
person
I
that
just wanna
can
make
do
sure
it.
that
No,
there's
I'm saying
clarification.
let's give you
Nobody's
the
gonna
okay to
file
do
a
that.
Brown Act violation
Sure.
on me for doing something that's
No,
ethically
let's-
morally
Russell, I
wrong.
think the concern is an employee of mine has historically been very involved in it. There were some hurtful things that were said and done. She has withdrawn. Mo very much needs that person. She's going to pull it off successfully. We can't force the issue because we have a volunteer that was doing that sort of thing.
In other
If
words,
she
we need
opts
an
not to
apology
do it,
letter.
she opts not to do it. She's put how many years?
And I can see why too, because I've had things like that done to me because I'm a board member and it's
well,
just very vindictive.
So we
Not
have,
called for.
we have to, at this point, in my mind, look at realistically without her support, because I doubt that support's
Oh,
gonna be
we're
there.
gonna make major
Then
errors.
can we
She
pull it
reminded
off?
me about the flowers. I'm like, shoot, duh.
What's that?
The flowers, like she would go out and buy flowers. Because remember, the teachers get the awards and they get flowers. She used to pay for the flowers and stuff like that. We have no budget.
I think we can also do work on that when you have your meeting. I
Right.
would, we've had people, I would be willing to donate the flowers. You know, I mean, we can find people with all of us.
But what I'm
I get
saying
it's a lot
is
of
she
work.
didn't
Yes,
mention that
it's-
and willingly talk to me about certain things and willingly answer them to me, because I believe she knows that I didn't say anything negative regarding her. I mean, I would have never thought about the flowers, you know, and then the certificates, I might have forgotten about the certificates unless one of you guys
Well, I
said.
think it's a huge project that, it's not, you're just our chair for that, but I'm in that committee. We all are gonna get subgroups from your subgroup. I think we should divide it into subgroups because, God, it's not, you have too much on your plate like we all do. But, we have to work it, as your subgroup, your committee will have to have subgroups, which we all will be very happy to do. And, it's like a throwing a big quinceañera for me,
Yes.
and we can do it.
I know it can be done now because I have that right. Before I was being told that it has to go before the CAC. So now that I know it doesn't have to,
Now,
and if people could do a nice email to Joan Weiss and CAC,
That'd be
right, and say that, it would be very nice if she could help us, I mean, I would
Okay,
appreciate that.
excuse me, now, we have done resource fairs in the past, and we have asked for donations. They do donate gift baskets, they donate gift cards. Christy was CAC at that time, and we did get a lot of donations, like Edith said, she was willing to donate some flowers, and so am I, and I think the majority of us here are willing to help you out, Mo, in whatever you need.
So I think that what Mo's saying, that's not an issue right now. The concern is we need this person's help, and like you were saying, that was my point. If we can send a letter of requesting that maybe there were misunderstanding, because I, as a CAC representative, do not feel comfortable for things that were said or heard or whatever, because I don't want Joan to feel like that towards me, because I am CAC. And I don't think it's fair for her to feel, if there were any hurt things said, it was not me as a CAC, but I'm part of CAC. Now it looks like it was me as part of CAC. So sending a letter to her, asking her for her support, I would be so happy, and I would drive it and go drive it to take it to her office where, so I feel also not fair that she will feel that way, because I am CAC, and I want to collaborate with her for years.
And that's another thing about misunderstandings. Karen, I gave you that sheet that I have from May 15. One of the items there that was tabled, back in May, Edith, if you remember that, and Kum, because one of you seconded and one of them motioned it, I wanted to send a thank you note to the person who donated the Disneyland tickets. And that was all tabled, so we never gave him a thank you card from all of us.
And that's,
But I think that's an automatic, that's
Yeah,
in my office, I do.
Yeah, but
I
does
think
somebody, do we sign it?
I
Is
think
it
Karen does-
personalized from CAC
But
or is it from?
But I
from
think
you?
that's something that we need to develop
The
through our
general CAC
subcommittees. And again, that is something that has to be in place, and it can be in place in my committee if you want. I can put it on right now, that next month we'll send a letter, just give us a list, we'll send a thank you letter. That is something that Karen has been doing that for years, and thank you so much when she sends a thank you letter to our presenters, to all the people involved. Now it's our job, again, that we need to put it on our plates. And if it wants to be through the write-in contest, then we'll do that. Or through Ashley Rose, which is the communication.
That we have to do. That's why I want to use, and I believe we really need Joan Weiss.
So I go
She's done it
with Mo,
before.
I go with you. If there's anything that we can do, I'm requesting as a CSR, if there's anything that we can do to to get Joan's support, please, I'm open to writing a letter with my signature, driving it over, taking her flowers.
But
buying chocolate.
I think we still need to let her make her own decision. I don't, I mean, we cannot, she's obviously, I think we should write a letter, saying how important she is.
I think a personal touch, a conversation really back and forth,
Yeah.
you know, get you there, you're gonna know whether you're gonna move forward or not. I would also like to propose, if you think this would work for everybody, on the evening of our presentation, is there a way that we can meet a half hour early with a one single item agenda? And that would be for Mo to give us an update, because that way, Mo, I don't want there to be any surprises that you think you're going down one path and then the CHC, you know, feels like they're not informed or whatever. I think everybody will be on the same page for this event. You can give an update if you're not able to move forward, whatever. But I think it would be really good if you could just have one more meeting added to the calendar on February 12th, half hour before the presentation, single agenda item, and have an update. You have February 12th for the presentation. And then you have March is the judging. So you've got to have everything ready to go. So I would suggest, since people are already coming, that you just add a meeting.
So can we add on the parking lot connection with Joan Weiss and how we can have her, what we can do to try to get back her support for the other? Can we do that in the park? Can we do that?
That may take too long.
Yeah.
Because the next
That's
parking
true.
lot we
Okay,
have
so
will be.
I think we just need to do it, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
work, it doesn't
exactly,
work.
Exactly, I don't.
But, you know,
Write
a
a
little
letter.
begging, a little
She's my
whatever.
She's my employee, why don't we?
If it doesn't work, it doesn't
Why
work.
don't we do this? As my employee, why don't I talk to her about a time that we could set aside? And if Christy, Mo, Edith, anybody else want to come talk to her, and we could have a conversation about, can she either share with us during that hour what she has to share with us, or is she willing to move forward to help us? And we could have a very private discussion and see what happens.
I feel very comfortable with that. And also
be willing to meet with her too.
So I think I think you're right, as a committee, it shouldn't be just an individual, but as a CEC committee, we can, you know, we can come and visit her. Also, I suggest that whether we get her support or not, I think because what she's been doing for so many years and donating so much money, that we should acknowledge her and give her an award to her on our next art and writing contest. As acknowledgement for her past years of what she's done. I'd like to give her a plaque, and I will donate the plaque.
In chocolate, right?
Yes.
And it concerns me a little bit, because I don't know that this committee ever said anything, this committee, as it stood, ever said anything in any way that would be in a disparaging manner. And that concerns me, because Joan is a friend of mine too.
Right.
And that really concerns me, because that, unless I was asleep sometime in the committee, you know, that was never part of any of the committee's discussions, comments, or anything else. And that's sad if that
So,
happens and then stays that way. Yeah.
Mo, you're willing to come meet? Christy, you're willing to come meet?
Certainly.
And Edith and Martina. And so I will work with her when that works for her schedule, because she's out serving students. And we'll set aside an hour and I'll let you know. Okay. So, are we still on Edith's report?
I'm done.
I'm kind of confused. Okay.
no, I'm done.
F2, timelines for selection of public and private agency. And the executive committee will inform the CAC of its plans and timelines to follow a procedure developed previously, and a subcommittee will identify the agency representative whose name will be recommended to the superintendent's council for approval. Now, this is the first time that we're supposed to do interviews for the possibility of an agent representative to come in. can't we mirror it the way you get a teacher to be part of CAC? Because to call 3 different people and to be able to interview them, 3 people, 4 people, that's gonna be hard to find a time where they're going to be available for interviews. And that was a timeline and plans that were previously developed that I had no part of.
Can I make a comment?
You guys approved those in September.
Originally, this is for the April one, is what you had given me to. put that
And you
on
wanted
the
to
agenda.
repeal, what you're saying is you wanted,
How are we gonna get different agency representatives to come in
Okay.
for
but
interviews?
here's the item you have, Martina. You have repeal motion from April 17th, but you guys superseded that with what you agreed to in September. And so in September, you guys agreed to a process, and the executive committee hasn't met yet to do that.
Right.
So now our next business meeting is May, so that would be the first time you could even come back to us with that.
Okay.
So
We'll take it to the executive committee.
Yeah, I suggest that's what we do, that we take the names to the executive committee and that we interview them and that we make a recommendation at the May meeting.
Okay. Number 3, CAC bylaws, section 4.2.6, board members serving as voting members. Any discussion on that?
I personally think, we've discussed this before, I think we're almost setting a dangerous precedent here if, in the extreme case of, I think we have, 10 districts with, do all of them have 5 board members or more? But, so we're looking at a total of, 50 people and,
No,
We
that's for voting
we
members.
come close to, in
Yeah.
terms of how many members do we have? I mean, we have to take the possibility of each one of those 50 wanting to be on the board.
And by
So,
law, the majority of
yeah,
the
that's what
committee
I think,
has
isn't
to
it?
have, by law, the majority of your committee has
Parents.
to have students with special needs.
Right.
So although you have 2 ex officio members that meet that criteria
But I
now,
think they're both here as ex officio
Right.
members, they're not
but
here as parents.
technically you could qualify under that criteria, but in the future, if you just have it blank, it's just there that it could be an ex officio member, the board voting member, then we could be out of balance with the law.
Right, with the percentage of parents and members. Also,
Yeah,
I think
right.
we would have to have a process of, like I said, what if, would one district have 1 board member, another district have 4, or all 5? Again, the numbers to me seems like it would be just not
Yeah. Just can't work
balanced,
with that.
so. I don't think that would work.
I've expressed, may I speak? I'm
Yes.
sorry. I've expressed my opinion, so I don't feel that bad expressing it again as a board member now, because my opinion hasn't changed, and that is, the people that have been elected by a board, to be on a board, have been elected by the public. So I feel like, they should be voting members. And if there was, some kind of procedure set up as to how many from a district could be on the CAC, I mean, that would be fine. But we don't have a rush of district board members coming here, I've been consistently coming for, 5 years now, and Mo as well. But there hasn't been really any other ones. So, that's my opinion.
But, what we have now doesn't mean is what we'll have tomorrow, next month, or next year. It's just like anything else, we have to be very open and neutral to what we don't have, because again, this is just not for today, but at least this is my understanding of how I feel. I'm here today, but I'm not be here next year. So again, we could have more, by 6 months, we can have all 50 if they choose to or decide to.
I would love for more board members to come on board and realize, what a burden, not a burden, let me go ahead and rephrase that. What a challenge it is to, educate special needs kids. And I wish they would be more informed about special education. And thank you, Superintendent, for coming, because you are learning so much about special education. And I wish more superintendents would come. so they could become aware of special education and find creative ways of finding more funds for us. And, you know, I do wish more board members would come. I would love to see 50 people that have the right to vote on something to make it better for our kids. I would love to see that.
And again, that brings up another point that would be my concern, you know, from my school district where I am and where I came from, there is always, you know, some board members that don't have any experience in special ed. And we, the parents, are teaching them, or the other board members are teaching them. As a parent, I would have a fear of somebody making decisions and voting when they're not experienced and they don't know. So that's another probably my biggest concern. But they still can be, you know, if you would have to. So there's just a lot that I just don't feel comfortable with that.
And the other thing that I have to contribute on this is that, at least with the two that are here now, in the present time, you know, we are asked to do a lot, and we're being asked to do a lot.
And thank you for volunteering.
You know, so why we shouldn't have the right, as all of you, to be voting members?
Because you're here as a board member. You know, I mean, Christy, you don't have to be in our committees if you don't want to. You and Mo are actually so kind that you're coming to our subcommittees or to our other committees. You're so kind that you're doing that, you know, but you are coming as a board member, not as a parent. And, you know, right now we don't have board members is because there's all those concerns we just talked about. I mean, that's just, you know, and no, not to you. I'm not thinking of you like, oh, you guys, I'm thinking of the future when we don't have, which we could have tomorrow or next month. That's my opinion.
So what does the committee want to do to move forward?
Well, I'm not comfortable with it.
Right.
Susan,
I would
you
just
put
move to the
here,
next
we'll
one.
discuss it in the legislative subcommittee.
Well, if you were gonna move it to anybody, that's who you would move it to.
I don't
I'm not
think at this point.
comfortable looking at that. Usually the board members, the board elects us to represent them. Board members can certainly come if they're interested, if they have expertise, or if they want to learn about it. But to my knowledge, in the 35 years that I've been on various committees, board members come, but they always come as ex officio members because they've appointed this committee to get a different view. Board members represent the community. They represent the total community and a large part of the community. But then they appoint us to get a different perspective. And they come because of interest, because they want to learn more, but always as ex officio members. And so, you know, my feeling is that we move on to the next one.
Thank you.
I second that.
Well, there's no vote. Oh, it's not an action.
Okay, so.
Number 4, CEC bylaw, section 5.1.2, and that's leaving the meetings at, what's WESC?
West End Educational Service Center. That's this building here.
Oh. The group will discuss pros and cons of moving meetings to other location and if needed, next steps to be determined.
If I may add a comment,
As I read it, it gives the committee the right to do that, unless the committee decides otherwise, all meetings. But they can decide any meeting they want. They can decide that that meeting will be in any other location. So, you know, I think we have that power already to decide where the meeting's going to be, and they can be here, or they can be someplace else. But if you don't designate some other location, then they're here, which makes sense.
This is the bylaws, just like you
and I
said.
think this can go back to what we were talking, if it's gonna be standing meeting or an ad hoc meeting, because for the standing meeting, one of the things that I knew we had to do is to post the agenda in an area where it's visible 7 days in advance, and, you know, 72 hours, I'm sorry, 72 hours to get the agenda, 72 hours in advance, I'm sorry. I know some of these, it's gonna be like that. So having a location where we can do that, again, I think it depends on if it's a standing committee meeting or if it's just an ad hoc meeting where it would be. I personally, if it's a standing meeting, I always feel the best place is here because of posting agenda and so on. If it's an ad hoc meeting, I think we can.
The bylaws don't restrict us
from doing either one.
Actually,
Yes,
the reason this was an issue was honestly because of the interpretation of the former self-administrator, who did interpret the bylaws to state that the only way you could not have a meeting here was if the CAC formally voted to have it off-site. So including standing committee meetings that were happening in your district, with your district offices. So that's why this was an issue. But if your interpretation is not that it has to be here,
No, in
then
fact,
it's not an issue.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and it's like, I've been in Selpas where they try to move the CAC meeting every single time so that more parents might come from that district. It doesn't work. But if you feel like your subcommittee meetings, you need to hold them somewhere because those on the committee live somewhere else. As long as we're following our bylaws to meet the timelines to post, good, go for it.
I think for a lot of people it has become convenient to meet here. In fact, I remember the first time that we moved the art and writing contest to the school, there were people who showed up at this location because it's the same thing. So yes, I mean, sometimes we change things because, because it's, there's a need to, and I'd be happy if you guys come to Chino Valley so I don't have to make you drive, every time, but I think it's settled here and it's easier to put those things, to put the agendas out 72 hours. I think there was a conversation when it was having the executive meeting, it just becomes harder to again, the logistics of that. So
And people go to a
it's
new
more for
school and
convenience.
have to figure out where the office is.
Right. I mean,
But another thing that was really great when we had the education committees, that we had a few questions, like about the flyer or about,
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
just, I can't think of a lot of questions, and
You
we
got
actually
Amy
asked
down?
Amy,
Yeah.
and she was able to
Amy.
answer at that time, and she came, so we have access to more information. I think having information close to us, like whether it's upstairs or next door, I think is very, 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 very,
But
very.
if, for instance, we had a presentation and you knew there was gonna be 100 people there, we wouldn't hesitate
Right.
to
Exactly.
find another location.
But I do know that one of the things that would make it convenience if we make AHOC meetings is that we don't have to say in advance the reservations for the room, because the day we had it, there was a lot of conferences and presentations going on in every single room here. So we kind of had to, we were really concerned we wouldn't have the room available. So, that was an AHOC meeting. We could have moved it just down the street, right at the corner, maybe the little restaurant. So again, the time is, to me, what I'm finding is the most value difficult thing.
Well, I don't hear that it's an issue with anyone.
No,
So
absolutely.
we're good. Second.
Knocking myself off.
We're gonna take that one. Oops.
And number 5, the CEC bylaw 6.6, to change chairperson-elect to parliamentary under secretary delete sentence, the secretary may date submit these tasks to Western Selpa staff. Okay, Christie, there's yeah, I know, no, it's just that, chair-elect, because she's a bylaw,
Yeah, she's
she
the
knows
one.
bylaws. Yeah, refresh my memory, please.
This is the chairperson-elect, Christie, wait,
Yeah.
we'll wait for Christie to.
No, I know it, because the description of the chairperson-elect is the parliamentarian.
Yeah.
So why not designate calling them parliamentarian?
But typically, and we haven't talked about that here, the chairperson-elect is the chairperson-elect, which means, like when I go to state SELPA, you move up the chairs each year. So if you're the secretary one year, then you move to the chairperson-elect, and the next year, you're the chairperson. And so at some point, I think we really need to have that discussion too, because it's my understanding that you've self-selected who your chair is going to be at your annual meeting. And so I would suggest this one come back on, just so we can talk about all aspects of it.
But there already is a vice chair too. That's the person.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
There's
the
a vice
reason.
chair.
There's already both a
There's
vice
a
chair and a
chair.
chair-elect.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe we just need to take a look at the governance of our CAC, the officers.
Mm-hmm.
Can we put that in the parking lot?
And then we're
And then get packing and go to the parking lot?
So that one will come back. F5, Terry? F5.
Right.
Terry?
Christie?
But you'll discuss all of that.
We'll come back, right? I think it merits a discussion.
Yeah, I think that whole thing, it's a little,
Whole thing?
we have a little, there's a little excess stuff there.
Something.
That is very, very generous.
I want a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Seven. So I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Would you just like have 10 program transfer or not? Just an update? You want an update on the
So,
program transfer at 10?
Yes,
I think we'll do the rest.
6,
Exactly.
7, 8, 10.
Do you want the program transfer?
I will.
Is that okay? So you guys all agree on that?
You guys all agree not to adjourn and to let her do, okay.
Doesn't matter. Either one.
Someone motion to go ahead and continue with the program transfer discussion and table the rest, so that Susan could.
I make a motion to,
I can just amend his motion, I'll amend my
Yeah.
second.
Amend your motion?
And I, yeah, I.
Sorry,
say a motion.
So
I agree, I agree.
F10 is the overview with a few changes that have happened in the last 2 days. Altaloma is requesting to take back adaptive PE, and by that they mean students in district and county programs who are currently served by the SBCSS adaptive PE teacher will now be served by the district APE teacher. So instead of being serviced by the county person, it'll be a district person. Cucamonga is planning to take back mild moderate programs, K through 5. Etowanda is taking back their mental health programs. Etowanda is planning to take back, as of yesterday, moderate to severe grades 1 through 3. Mountain View has rescinded their request, so that one needs to be crossed out. Ontario Montclair is still the same. They're going to expand autism classes to provide autism classes for students in grades 2 through 3, and to expand behavior intervention classes to grades 4 through 6. And Ontario Montclair School District will expand its OT services to include all students attending district programs. And then in addition, yesterday, I did receive a request from Chino to take back their mental health programs. So that means any counseling services we're providing out of this outlet. However, if they have a student who they feel has more severe needs or whatever, they could still opt next year to do the fee for service and refer a student to the WESELPA for the mental health services.
Now, do you guys physically make sure that they have the employees to be able to do this?
So,
Like for the behavior, for the,
so Moses,
mental health?
here's the deal on that. Mental health, they will, yes, because
They
have.
will, but for now, they don't, correct?
But by next year they will. And so now, I have already, as of today, because today was the deadline, contacted SBCSS Human Resources. It's their job to work on the personnel aspect of it with individual districts to ensure that they interview our people. But they will have to determine in their own district how many people they need for how many students, and that would be the next steps for them. For the other programs outside of mental health, that's a county-operated program and district issue. So they'll be working in with personnel and the district in many regards to make sure that they have a seamless transition for those students.
Okay, now for school districts that are taking back, say, OT speech, adaptive PE, okay? They're taking it back, you guys are approving it, you're assuming they're going to be able to get these certified people in and be able to do these services, right? You're assuming. Nobody actually physically made sure that they have these employees.
So the WESELPA oversees the process, oversees that the various aspects of the process are followed. Superintendents vote whether or not to move forward. And then it's up
But
to
they vote on a blind agenda. They have no details.
Well, I I think maybe we're looking at two extremes and maybe really the truth is in the middle. I don't think they do this blindly by any means. I think there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes, especially like I'm facing layoffs for employees. That's going to be a very confidential matter. So there's sometimes things they can't share with you too.
Oh, I understand that, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
But I do know that in the past, when you ask the superintendents afterwards, do you really know what you vote on? They get so mad and they walk away because they honestly don't. And I do have the guts to ask them.
So that's probably district by district. I can't answer for everything, and I
It's
haven't
not
been here.
district by
And I
district,
haven't been here.
because you guys are, the superintendent council is granting them the right to take back something that is not even able to be done because there's really no proof that they're able to actually do what they're saying that they're gonna do.
I think that's a district by district issue, and so in the case of your district.
No, I'm not saying my district, I
No,
don't
no,
know why
I'm
you keep
saying-
bringing up my district.
You need to have those conversations, and if anybody else, a parent is concerned, they can certainly have the discussions with their district. I haven't been here through the whole process, so I haven't seen what you're talking about more. I don't have that experience right now. All I can do is help to move the process along the way it's supposed to happen.
So as SELPA director, you would be recommending, let's use my district, I don't have this, so you may lose one or two of your counselors or therapists, whatever we want to call them. So hopefully Etiwander and Chino would pick those people up. Is that what?
They're not obligated.
Right.
Under the policy, they're obligated to interview them.
Okay.
So that's out of my domain, that would be HR working.
But
with
that would be
HR.
like a recommendation.
And the way we're increasing across the state, since we've had to take on the mental health services, I have no doubt there'll be jobs for them. But it breaks the program, you know, where you have.
Yeah.
But see, that's part of my concern is.
But what's in the best
Wait, okay, Chino's taking back their mental health, and other school districts are too. And we're assuming that they're gonna be able to do this and do it for this amount of kids. What happens if they can't, and you've already exited certain amount of counselors out? How do we get those highly skilled counselors back? We don't, because they found other jobs. So,
So
I'm like,
if you go to the
I
timeline,
just see huge, I mean,
there's a
gaps.
timeline and
in
there's
these
pieces of it
transfers.
yet. There's dates to notify us, but then there's back and pack meetings coming up, and superintendent's council meetings coming up, where it's the opportunity to answer all those questions you're asking. You know, have you looked at input? Have you looked at the process? Have you looked at personnel, whatever? So I would invite you to attend those meetings and either hear or participate in that conversation.
Actually, you know, I have this whole list right here. You know, this is what I'd like to see. And if you could send us the responses back. Contact all these school districts and then the prior year of these people that took back these programs. See how many of them actually had parent meetings, actually took it upon themselves to follow the local plan. And I guarantee you, every school district is out of compliance and didn't do it.
I think that's why it's good to go back and look at
Maybe
policy
a
sometimes, because it was an aha to me when I saw that it's supposed to be a
But
two-year policy.
I'm asking
So
you.
you have a motion? Do you have a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
Point of order, I think we're going beyond
The timing.
Yeah.
Someone who's the second?
Second.
I got a motion, second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.
Can I get a tax card?
Sure. Unless you want to.
I'll bring it back. No, you don't have to bring it back though.
Oh,
I'll take one back. If you take it.
no, is that one tax?
Sorry.
Sure.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Yeah, you bet.
I don't know anything about nonprofit. No, you're probably
Yeah, that's no problem. Okay, great.
Can I track our-
Turn it out.
Yeah, okay.
You know what it is?
It looks